So the letter basically, like you rightly said, it's some of the most powerful people in the field, who, like me, I walked out in end of 2017. Others like Jeffrey Hinton and so many others are starting to wake up to that in 2023. I think ChatGPT was basically the Netscape moment. I know you guys are too young for Netscape, but the internet was there for 15 years before Netscape came out. And when Netscape came out as a web browser, we realized that the internet existed. Okay, the reality is that this is the Netscape moment of AI. ChatGPT basically told us what the possibilities, told the general public what the possibilities are, and so suddenly we all realize this stuff exists. Now, for all of the scientists that started to recognize that it is truly, I mean, the moment of singularity where AI becomes smarter than us, artificial general intelligence that's capable of doing everything humans do better than humans, is not contested. Most of us, most scientists will say it's 2029. I say it's 2027 or earlier. Okay, that there will be a moment in time within the next 2 to 3 years where there will be a wake-up call where we suddenly realize that AI is much more intelligent than us. Most scientists have started to recognize that. And so they basically issued a letter urging all of the top AI players to pause the development of AI for 6 months so that the safety code, the control code, can catch up. Right, because there have been quite a few that have been putting in effort to create that control code, but let's say 98% of all investment in the last 10 years has gone into the AI code, not the control code, and so the control code was lagging, and so the letter was basically saying, can we pause for 6 months to figure this out before we continue to develop AI? And of course, the answer was very straightforward. The first I think I heard was Sundar Pichai, the CEO of Google, which is someone I respect dearly and I think is an amazing human being. And Sundar basically came out and said, I can't stop. How can I stop if you can't guarantee me that Meta and Amazon and all of the others are going to stop too? And by the way, even if they stop, how can you guarantee me that 2 little kids in Singapore in their garage are not developing AI code that can disrupt my business? My responsibility, my accountability, if you want, to my shareholders, requires me to continue to develop the code. And I think that reality is the prisoner's dilemma that I'm talking about. It is the first inevitable. It's an arms race that will not stop, not because we cannot stop. We can. If we all agree for once in humanity's lifetime that this is existential and that this requires us to stop, we will stop. Okay, it's really not that complicated. Wake up in the morning and have a cup of coffee instead of writing AI code. It's very simple, okay? But the first inevitable means that the arms race is not going to stop, okay? Even as you look at humanity's biggest success in that dilemma, which was nuclear weapons, where humanity suddenly got together, very late in the game and said, hey, this is existential. It can threaten the entire existence of humanity. Why don't we slow down or stop? We didn't really stop. We just allowed the big countries to continue to develop nuclear bombs when the smaller countries were banned from doing it. But at least when it comes to nuclear weapons, we had the ability to detect any nuclear testing anywhere in the world. So at least we became aware. That's not the case with AI today. I also said once in an interview that also it's not just the risk of humans developing risky AI, it's now the risk of AI developing risky AI. So it's basically a nuclear bomb that's capable of building other nuclear bombs, if you want.
It's crazy to think. And I know the other inevitable is it will eventually become smarter than us, which we talked about. So let's talk about the bad things that could happen from AI, which is your third inevitable. And I think a lot of people, when they think of threats of AI, they think about the existential threats that, there's going to be robots taking over, killing off humanity, making humans slaves. But let's talk about some of the more immediate threats that we need to be concerned about.
Yes, I don't speak of the existential risks for two reasons. One is they diffuse the focus on the immediate important threats, right? And two, they're less probable. As a matter of fact, they are so improbable that they're basically not worthy of discussing today, because we may not make it if they that far if the immediate risks are not attended to. And there are many immediate risks, but my top three have consistently been the redesign of the job market, and accordingly the redesign of purpose and the fabric of society. Two is the idea of AI in the wrong hands based on who you think are the wrong hands. Okay. The third is the concentration of power. And the shift of power upwards, which I think is very important to understand. And the fourth is the end of truth. So let me go through those very quickly.
Sure.
Let me start with the concentration of power. If people don't understand how our world has worked since the agricultural revolution, it's always been kings and peasants. Landlords and peasants, okay? And the difference between them is that the peasants worked really hard to sow the seed and collect the harvest, when most of the profits, most of the wealth went to the landlord who owned the automation. Okay, when the industrial revolutions joined, our world, the automation became the factory or the retail store, and so on and so forth. And so whoever owned those actually made all of the money, not the one that made the shoe, but the one that sold the shoe or owned the factory that made the shoes. The next, and every time the technology enhanced that automation, the distribution of power became even bigger. Okay, so the landlords needed to own a lot of land to become, much richer than the peasants. You could own 2 factories and become much richer than the peasants. You can own an internet app, like Instagram, and become much richer than the peasants. And now with AI, all of us are going to be happily chatting away and putting prompts in ChatGPT, but the ones that own the automation, the digital soil, if you want, are going to become very few players. Amazon, Google, Meta, and so on and so forth. Meta and so on. That's on the Western side. Of course, you have a few on the Chinese side, a few on the Russian side, and so on. So there is a very significant gap between those who have and those who don't have, powered by the loss of jobs, which I'll come to in a second. But that significant gap is not going to be only on money. It's also going to become on intelligence, on the commodity that we've now commoditized that's called intelligence. So you can easily imagine that, if Elon Musk's view of Neuralink, where we can connect AI to our brains directly, which, by the way, is very, very possible in its testing. It is in testing. That if one human is capable of producing that, just imagine the extreme, that human would become so much more intelligent than the other humans that it becomes natural, unless that human is Jesus or Buddha or some very, very enlightened being, that this human will basically say, okay, I want to keep that advantage. Okay, at least I don't want to distribute it too widely to every human on the planet. So that, I think, is a very interesting, inevitable threat. Okay, what we used to call the digital divide when technology started is now going to be intelligence divide. It's going to be power divide in a very, very big way. This also applies to nations, and this is the reason for my first inevitable, is that, in simple terms, if one nation discovers an AI or creates an AI that's capable of seizing control of the other nation's nuclear arsenal, that's it. That's game over. War is done, right? Because basically, and this is why it's an arms race. So this is one. The other derivative of that, so power is going up, but jobs are disappearing. Why? Because if you're a graphics designer, or if you're a developer, or if you're a lawyer, or if you're a researcher in a bank or whatever, the machines with their current intelligence can do those jobs much better than you. And so, in my personal view, there is clearly going to be a disappearance of a very large, a number of jobs that government needs to prepare for, something like universal basic income, but also the idea of usefulness and purpose of humanity. So how are we going to continue to want to wake up in the morning when most of us have defined, wrongly by the way, defined our jobs as our purpose? Now, when I say that, most people will tell me, oh, but Mo, that happened before, when Excel came out, everyone said, okay, accountants are going to disappear. They found other skills and became, found other jobs basically. And I agree, by the way. Just understand the following. When there was a time when the strength, physical strength, was the distinction, the distinctive reason why you would hire someone. Then there was a time when it became information workers, where skills and knowledge and so on became the distinction. And now we're taking that away. So skills and knowledge. So I don't know what else is remaining in a human so that we can find another skill when intelligence is outsourced to machines. So when that happens, by the way, I believe that this takes us back to the origin of society, where we really did not know how to work madly as we do now. Okay, so this is actually not a bad thing. It's just a very, very serious disruption to humanity's day-to-day income and economics and the way we spend our hours and so on.